Johnny Talk Sports in with the Week 11 NFL predictions. And I'm going to say exactly what I said during my college football Week 12 predictions. I'm in a slump right now. The last 2 weeks in my college football picks below 500. And last week I was 7-7, which is exactly 500. So I am in a slump. And with the expectations I set for myself, this is the biggest slump I've ever had. But even though it's 2020 and we see the craziest things in 2020, I'm not backing down in my statement where I'm going to say what I always say after a bad week. I am going to respond. I'm going to respond in a very big way. Even though it's 2020 and the craziest things happen this year, I feel like one thing will never change, and that is my bounce back after a bad week. But before I get to the Week 11 NFL predictions, you'll want to check out my college football predictions for Week 12. I'll put the link in the description box down below, so if you want to check that out. So let's get right to the Week 11 NFL predictions. As we do have some good showdowns this week, we got a showdown between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Just a couple of weeks ago, they played the best game of the season, at least up until last week, because I think the Bills and the Cardinals, they probably took the top spot in best game of the season. So the two best games of the season so far, the Cardinals have been a part of. And it just shows what an exciting team the Cardinals are, especially offensively, with them acquiring DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason, adding another weapon for Kyler Murray and that Cardinals offense. And we also have an NFC South showdown between the Falcons and the Saints. We've got a playoff rematch between the Titans and the Ravens. Can the Ravens contain Derrick Henry this time? We also got Aaron Rodgers going on the road to Indy to take on the Colts. And the Colts are one of, if not the best defense in the National Football League. And we also have a showdown on Monday Night Football between the Rams and the Buccaneers. So it is set to be an exciting week for the National Football League. Let's get right to the picks. As always, we begin with Thursday Night Football. And this week, Thursday Night Football features the Cardinals and the Seahawks. As I said a moment ago, when they played each other a couple of weeks ago, that was probably the best game of the season until last week with the Bills and the Cardinals. And in that game, it could have really gone either way. Both of the teams, they really showed hard out there. And anything could have happened in that one. We saw Tyler Lockett have one of the best games I've ever seen as a receiver. A 3-touchdown game by Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf also became a meme in a good way. And the Cardinals pull off the upset to give the Seahawks their first loss of the season. So right now the Seahawks are in a slump. They are 1-3 in their last 4 games. And let's not forget that before they lost the Cardinals for their first loss of the season, they were kind of skating by in games. They barely beat Dallas, a 1-possession game. They barely beat the Dolphins, a 1-possession game. And they barely beat the Vikings. In fact, they probably should have lost the Vikings, but Mike Zimmer beat himself in that one. And I argue that if Dalvin Cook was able to play the entire game, if he didn't leave the game with an injury, I say the Vikings win that game. So the Vikings ultimately beat themselves against the Seahawks. So really, I think the Seahawks, they're very lucky to be where they are at. To only have 3 losses this season when they could easily maybe have like 4 losses or even 5, maybe even up to 6 losses this season. But Russell Wilson is showing that he is deserving of an MVP trophy because he has really kept the Seahawks from really being a below 500 team. Because the Seattle defense has not been helping him out whatsoever in the first 10 weeks of the season. But let me tell you why I think the Seahawks are going to win this game this time around. 1, the Cardinals are coming off an emotional victory against the Bills in a game where they should have lost, but they would have lost if it weren't for DeAndre Hopkins. So that trade for DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason has paid off for the Cardinals so far, as they're in a position to not only make the playoffs, but to also in the NFC West. And to put Kyler Murray in Heisman Trophy contention. And the Seahawks, it is possible for them that Chris Carson will be returning this week. So Chris Carson left the game early in the second quarter against the Cardinals when they played each other a couple of weeks ago. And adding him back into that Seattle offense, I think, to be a difference maker for Seattle, as Chris Carson is the best at killing the clock and the best at keeping opposing offenses on the sideline. So I think with adding Chris Carson back into the mix, I think the Seahawks are going to win this one. It's a recipe to let Russ cook, as Chris Carson is going to carry the load this week for Seattle. I think Seattle wins this game 31-30, as Chris Carson is able to grind out the clock about the final 2.5 to 3 minutes of it. So I'm going with Seattle. Next, we have the Eagles and the Browns. The Browns got Nick Chubb back in their lineup last week, and it proved to be a difference maker, as both him and Kareem Hunt both went for over 100 yards against that Texans defense last week, which I say is trouble for the Eagles, as they had a really hard time stopping Daniel Jones and Wayne Gallman last week. So this is really a nightmare scenario for the Eagles, despite still being in the race for the NFC East. Their defense is a struggle. However, it's only a matter of time until the Eagles, they go on a 3-4 game winning streak to end the season. They go into the playoffs hot. They play close in the first round of the playoffs. And I think that's what could happen here. I think that the Eagles are to contain the running game of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they force Baker Mayfield to have to win the game through the air. I like the Eagles' chances in this one, despite the Eagles' defense looking lackluster last week. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game. I think that they're going to stack the box against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they're going to contain it very well. And once it comes down to having to force Baker Mayfield to win the game through the air, I think the Eagles' defense will step up to the occasion. As it's been said that Baker Mayfield is an up and down kind of quarterback. There's one game where we think that he's a franchise quarterback, and the next week we think he's a bust. Then it's franchise quarterback and a bust. And right now I think it's going to be talks of him being a bust. So I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. Next, we have the Falcons and the Saints. The Saints won last week against the 49ers, but it came at a cost. Drew Brees has as his ribs fractured. I believe it's 5 total ribs, 3 on the right side and 2 on the left, and it's possible his lung could be punctured. So he will miss a significant amount of time for the Saints. So, with the Saints going to possibly Jameis Winston at quarterback, the Falcons coming off a bye week, it just appears that the Falcons coming off of a bye week, I feel like I'm getting the same vibes with last season for the Falcons. It usually feels that way for the last 2 seasons now. Once the Falcons, they appear to be out of playoff contention, they just start to win games all of a sudden. And I know logically to pick the Falcons, I really don't usually pick logically. I'm going to here, because there is an old saying that history does repeat itself, and this is kind of historic, because we know the Falcons did this just last year. Once they came off of a bye week, they played the Saints first, and they ultimately dominated against the Saints. And Drew Brees was kind of struggling in that Saints passing game anyway. He was kind of struggling to get the ball down the field. And I thought with Michael Thomas coming back, it was going to boost the Saints up to that best team in the NFC. Well, with Drew Brees being out, I think it could be hard for the Saints to depend on Jameis Winston. Although another thing about history repeating itself, Teddy Bridgewater went undefeated last year in Drew Brees' absence. But Jameis Winston, we know Jameis Winston as the turnover machine, especially last year. So I will pick the Falcons in this one. I just feel like with them coming off of a bye week, and there's a new spark to that Falcons team with Raheem Morris as the interim defensive coordinator, ultimately him auditioning for the Falcons head coaching position, which I think would be a mistake for the Falcons, because I feel like hiring Raheem Morris as the permanent head coach would just be getting Dan Quinn 2.0. But I'll pick the Falcons win this week. Next, we have the Bengals and the Washington football team. The football team, they showed their hearts against the Lions, and they almost pulled off the win, almost forced overtime, but they were heartbroken by a Matt Prater field goal, while the Bengals are coming off of an embarrassment against the Steelers. And right now, the Bengals' confidence, it could be a little down right now, especially with how they underperformed against a division rival. While the football team, there is some hope. They have played close in their last couple of games. And I would argue that if one or two things go differently in each of those games, we're talking about a different Washington football team. And the Washington football team has a very underrated defense. And with that, and with their secondary not giving up very much to wide receivers this season, I am going to go with the Washington football team here, and Alex Smith to get his first win since returning to the NFL after that very gruesome and devastating injury, as I'm rooting for him, and I hope you all are rooting for him too, even if you're a fan of the division rivals, whether it's the Cowboys, Giants, or Eagles. You got to respect Alex Smith for the hard work he put in, all of the rehabilitation, all of the surgeries, everything he had to go through just to come back and play for the Washington football team. I respect him a lot, and I'm going to pick the football team to win this one, and I'm rooting for him in this one. Next, we have the Lions and the Panthers. For the Panthers, it is uncertain if Teddy Bridgewater will be playing this week, as he left the game last week in Tampa Bay with a knee injury. So it could be possible the Panthers will be going with XFL superstar P.J. Walker in this one. And for the Lions, they're going to possibly get Kenny Golladay back again in their lineup, as Kenny Golladay has been in and out of the lineup all throughout the season. But when Kenny Golladay is in the lineup, it really expands the horizon for the Lions offense. And they're coming off an emotional win against the Washington football team, a game where they had a big lead, but they let it go, and then Matt Prater bailed them out. And I think that's some confidence for the Lions moving forward. And despite the Panthers having talent at the wide receiver position, Curtis Samuel starting to step up in that Panthers offense, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, a top 5 receiver in the league statistically, 5th in the NFL in receiving yards. I just don't think I like the Panthers' chances against the Lions, especially with Matthew Stafford getting Kenny Golladay back, his number 1 receiver, and DeAndre Swift is starting to run the football very well. I'm gonna pick the Lions in this game, because I just can't see P.J. Walker pulling off the win for the Panthers. But if Teddy Bridgewater plays, I would probably pick the Panthers in this one, but I'm leaning towards Teddy Bridgewater not playing, and they're going to go with P.J. Walker. Next, we have the Steelers and the Jaguars. The Steelers, still unbeaten, the lone unbeaten team in the National Football League, while the Jaguars, they have shown some heart in their last 2 games. Close battle against the Texans, and close battle against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So it's uncertain whether or not Gardner Minshew will be back this week, or if Jake Luton, the rookie out of Oregon State, will be getting his 3rd start in the NFL. But I feel like no matter who plays, the Steelers win this game big. Although I will say this could easily be a trap game as well. Because James Robinson is going to have his hands full with the Steelers defense, as the Steelers are the best at stopping the run in the National Football League. So if James Robinson gets contained and they force Jake Luton to have to win the game, I just don't like Jacksonville's chances. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one. Although it could be a trap game as well, because the Steelers, they could be looking forward. They could be looking ahead to that showdown against the Ravens on Thanksgiving night. So that could be something to look out for. If the Steelers, if they're kind of not playing to their standards so far this season, it could be they're looking ahead. But I think the Steelers, they should be able to take care of business in this one and remain perfect on the season. Next, we have a rematch of last year's AFC divisional matchup, well, one of the divisional matchups, from the Titans and the Ravens. Can the Ravens defense contain Derrick Henry this time? As Derrick Henry completely dominated against the Ravens in the playoffs last season. And the Titans, they're coming off of a couple days extra rest in the Ravens. And the Ravens, they're coming off of a really shocking loss against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. So the Ravens, I just don't really know what to think of this one. I think that they'll be able to stop Derrick Henry, because I think that they're going to do the same thing that I think the Eagles are going to do with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and that is stack the box against Derrick Henry. And the Ravens team, I feel like, is better defensively now than when it was when they faced off in the divisional round. So I'm going to pick Baltimore in this one. I just think it's only a matter of time till Lamar Jackson he gets back into the thick of things, because the Ravens, they can run the ball really well. In fact, they're one of the best at running the football in the National Football League. But if the Titans defense, if they contain that run, if they force Lamar Jackson to throw the football to win the game, then the Titans will win. But I'm going to pick the Ravens in this one. Although this game could probably go either way. But I'm going with Baltimore. Next, we have the Patriots and the Texans. And this one I think can go either way as well. Because the Texans, not thinking of a secondary. The Patriots, well, with them missing Julian Edelman, Cam Newton it appears that he's found his new number one target, and that is Jacoby Myers. So, and the Patriots, they also still have a solid defense as well. But can they contain Deshaun Watson? Can they stop Deshaun Watson from becoming mobile in the game and force him to throw the ball down the field? Well, Brandon Cooks has stepped up in recent weeks. Will Fuller has stepped up in recent weeks. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson in this matchup. But in the end, though, I think this game is going to be close. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think that the Patriots offense, I think it's still struggling a bit, and I think they still need to find their rhythm again. While they're on a 2-game winning streak, they beat the Jets and they beat a Ravens team that was forced to throw the football. And we know the MO for the Ravens is to run the football with Lamar Jackson, and if they force him to throw, there's a good chance that you may not like his chances in that game. I don't take New England in this one. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of maybe 23-20. But I think the Patriots win. They go on a 3-game winning streak, because every time, just when we think the Patriots are out, they just seem to keep coming back. So I will take the Patriots. Next, we have the Dolphins and the Broncos. The Broncos, they're starting to get a little bit healthier, but the Dolphins, they're getting a lot better. Despite Myles Gaskin being on the IR and with Jordan Howard being released, the Dolphins running game is still going strong with Ahmed. Salvon Ahmed, as he stepped up for the Dolphins last week against the Chargers. And Tua is 3-0 as a starting quarterback in the NFL, which is a surprise. And I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win again. I just think that with Tua, maybe I was wrong about Tua Tagovailoa. And plus, the Dolphins' defense is getting better week after week. So I will take the Dolphins to extend their winning streak, and Tua will go 4-0 as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Next, we have the Jets and the Chargers. The Chargers are still looking for their winning edge, as they have played a one-possession game in almost every single game this season. In fact, every single game has been a one-possession game for the Chargers. So it just shows the Chargers, they know how to keep it close, but they can't pull it off in the very end. So the Chargers, they could be a team to watch out for in the future if they can eventually figure things out. And for the Jets, they are still looking for their first win of the season. And honestly, this game, it just feels pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to pick the Chargers in this one, because the Jets, I just haven't seen anything. Well, they did come close against the Patriots in their last game, but close doesn't really mean much. Just ask the Chargers. But I will take Los Angeles to finally get things together. But they'll at least win this week. Next, we have what I think is one of the better games of the week. The Packers and the Colts. Aaron Rodgers going on the road to Indianapolis to take on the very stout Colts defense. The Colts defense has extra rest, a few days extra rest by playing Thursday Night Football. While the Packers, well, they had to grind it out against the Jaguars. And Devontae Adams got a little banged up, but I think that he's probably going to most likely play this week. But against that Colts secondary, I think it's going to be a challenge. And the last time Aaron Rodgers faced one of the better defenses in the National Football League, he definitely didn't perform very well at all. And I think that's going to be one of those cases again this week. The Packers, they also had a hard time stopping James Robinson last week. In fact, James Robinson could have had 2 touchdowns last week. but they both got called back for holding penalties. So with them not being able to stop the run very well in these last couple of weeks, and the Colts, they have a very, really run-first run game of Jonathan Taylor. Even, well, Nyheim Hines has gotten the majority of the carries so far in these last couple of weeks. And Jordan Wilkins is also getting into the mix. So I'm going to take that Colts running game. I like that Colts and their run-first offense to slow the game down, to have the game favor their pace by running the football with Taylor, Hines, and Wilkins, keeping Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines. I think the Colts pull off the upset in this one. So I'm taking Indy. Next, we have the Cowboys and the Vikings. And who thought that this game was going to really not be exciting as it was preseason? Because this was preseason, this would be one of the better games this season, especially watching Dak go up against the Vikings defense. I thought the Vikings defense would be a little bit better than what it has been this season. But the Cowboys, it's possible they can get Andy Dalton back this week, so that would be a plus for the Cowboys. But they're not good at stopping the run, and they're not good with their defense either. In fact, they're on pace to be, on history, the worst defense in NFL history, at least in the modern era. While the Vikings, they're getting hot. Ever since their bye week, ever since their close loss against Seattle, and their bye week, of course, they've just gotten hot. They're undefeated since coming off their bye week. And I think the Vikings, they make it 4 in a row here. I just like the matchups with Thielen and Jefferson against that lackluster Cowboy secondary. That is one of the worst defense. That is the worst defense in the league, and possibly one of the worst defenses we've ever seen. In fact, it's probably going to be the worst defense statistically in NFL history by the end of the season. So I like this matchup for the Vikings. I think the Vikings go 4 in a row, and they're making a late season charge here, the Vikings. So I will take Minnesota. We're now at Sunday Night Football between the Chiefs and the Raiders, and these teams faced off early in the season, and the Raiders pull off the upset, giving the Chiefs their only loss of the season. So for the Raiders to pull off another upset against the Chiefs, they need to use Josh Jacobs. They need to use him. They need to kill the clock. They need to assert the ground game and keep Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines, kind of keep him cold, keep him cold on the field and warm on the bench. If they can do that, I like the Raiders' chances. However, the Raiders, they are coming off of a win against the Broncos, but it is the Broncos. And I think with the Chiefs coming off of a bye week, I think there is nobody better than Andy Reid off of a bye week. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this matchup. And we are going to conclude Week 11 with the Rams and the Buccaneers, what I think is the game of the week. Call me crazy, but I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Despite having two great offenses, Jared Goff with Sean McVay has really done a complete 180 for the Rams franchise, and the Buccaneers, they got a huge win to get back on track last week against the Panthers. Call me crazy, though, but I don't think there's going to be much scoring in this game, despite these two quarterbacks and these offenses. I just think it's going to be about the defenses. I'm going to say it's going to be low scoring. For the Rams, you've got Aaron Donald. And for the Buccaneers, you've got what I think is the most underrated defense in the National Football League. And with the defensive slugfest, it's going to be an exciting one. But in the end, though, I just think that the Rams are the better defense in this one. Because I think the Rams, they are starting to really hit their stride. Because ever since the Rams, they really got outplayed by the 49ers on Sunday Night Football, they've completely turned a corner. And I think the Rams win this game with their defense. I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 20-17. I think it's going to be that close for the game. I don't see this being very high scoring, so I'm picking the Rams. And that does it for my Week 11 NFL predictions. For review, I like the Seahawks, Eagles, Falcons, football team, Lions, Steelers, Ravens, Patriots, Dolphins, Chargers, Colts, Vikings, Chiefs, and Rams this week. Like, share, and subscribe. Comment your picks down below. And I will talk to you next time. and enjoy Week 11 of the NFL season.